Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa and I'm always here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday, and I talk about true crime. Friday, I dedicate my Fridays to talk about missing children, but I also do talk about different topics. So if you're interested, go ahead and subscribe and also hit the bell so you can be notified every time I upload. Before we start a video, I always like to start my videos with an inspiration. So let's start with that. I'm going to love you in your weakest moments to your strongest one. I'm going to love you when you're happy. I'm going to still love you the most when you're sad. Don't you understand? I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I want to love each and every piece of you. I want you with your imperfections as much as I want you for you, and always going to want you. I'm always going to want you. I'm always going to be here, loving you with everything. And that was my inspiration of the day. So today's case is one of those cases that I've been living here since I don't even know how long I've been literally raised here all my life, and I've never heard of this case until I started researching cases, and so I started wanting to do start doing true crime YouTube videos. So this is one of those cases that I was shocked to hear, but this is one of the cases that I still to this day they don't know who the man is. So I wanted to share it with you. Y'all probably have heard it before, but I just haven't. I was back then growing up, I really wasn't in the true crime. I was not that obsessed with true crime, I guess because my parents never let us watch that. They try to keep us away from that dark side as much as possible. So I think once I got a little bit older and moved out, that's when I started but like I said, I've never heard of this case. So this case was I literally watched YouTube's videos about it. I researched it over and over again, read it over and over again, because I just wanted trying to figure out who could it be. Could it be somebody in town? Could it be it's just one of those cases that I'm just wanting to hopefully one day we could find out who did it, because this case was just crazy. So today we're going to be talking about the case of the Texarkane Moonlight Murders. Oh guys, hold on. The Texarkane Moonlight Murders, a term coined by the contemporary press, were a series of unsolved serious murders and other violent crime committed in around the Texarkane region between Arkansas and Texas in the spring of 1946. Between Arkansas, they were a tribute to an illegal, undefined serial killer known as the Penton Killer or Penton Slayer. This critical perpetrator is created with it tracking 8 people, 5 of whom were murdered in a 10-week period. The attacks occurred at night on weekends between February 2022 and May 30, targeting male-female pairs. The first 3 attacks were at Lover Lanes, a quiet stretch road on the Texas side. The 4th attack occurred as an Soleil farmhouse in Kansas. The murders were reported naturally and intentionally by several publications. It caused a state of panic in Texarkane throughout the summer. At dusk, heavily armed residents locked themselves indoors while police patrolled streets and neighborhoods. Stores sold out guns, ammunition locks, and many other protective devices. Some youth attempt to bite and brush their killer. Investigators were conducted at the city, country, state, and federal level. In the course of investigations, there had been shifting opinions by officers over whether the 1st and 4th attacks were committed by the same predator. The prime suspect in the case was Yalan Sween, a career petty criminal who was linked to the murders, primarily by statements from his wife plus additional circumstantial evidence. After Sween's wife refused to testify against him, the prosecutor decided against pursuing murder charges. Sween was sentenced to a long term as a habitual car thief, and Ford, 2 of the lead investigators, believed him to be guilty. And in 2014 book, The Penton Killer: Unlocking the Mystery of the Texarkane Serial Murders, also point to Sween as the culprit. These events inspire many works, including the 1976 film The Town That Dread Sundown, which is the basic for much of the myth and folklore around the murders. So we're going to talk about the crimes. The Texarkane Moonlight Murders involved 4 violent attacks, which occurred over 10 weeks from February to May of 1946 in around Texarkane, Twin City, at the border of Miller County, Arkansas, and Bowie County, Texas, United States. All 4 attacks targeted male-female pairs in its solution locations at night and weekends, with attacks according to intervals of 3 to 4 weeks. The attacks have been it's speculated to be the work of an undefined serial killer. So we're going to talk about the first victim. So this happened February 22nd. Around 11:45 p.m. on Friday, February 22, 1946, Jimmy Holes, age 25, and his girlfriend Mary Jane Larry, age 19, parked on a secluded road known as the Lover's Lane after having seen a movie together. The area was approximately 3 feet from the last row of the city homes. Around 10 minutes later, a man wearing a white cloth mask, which resembled a pillowcase with eye holes cut out, appeared at Holly's drive-side door and shone a flashlight in the window. Unsure if it was a prank, Holly told him he had the wrong person, to which the man responded, "I don't want to kill you, fellow, so do what I say." Both Holly and Larry were ordered out of the driver's side door, and the man ordered Holly to take off his goddamn bridges after he Sorry guys, my daughter turned the lights off. Both Holly and Larry were ordered at the drive-side door, and the man ordered Hills to take off his goddamn britches. After he complained, the man struck him in the head twice with the pistol. Larry later told investigators that the noise was so loud she had intentionally thought Ollie's had been shot, when it had actually been his skull fracturing. Thinking the assailant went to rob them, Larry showed him Holly's wallet to prove he had no money, after which she was stuck with the bullet object. The assailant ordered her to stand, and when she did, told her to run. Intentionally, she tried to flee towards a ditch, but the assailant ordered her to run up the road. Larry spotted an old car parked off the road, but found it empty, and was gained comfortable by the attacked, who asked her why she was running. When she responded that he had told her to do so, he called her a liar before knocking her down. Sorry guys, let me just give you a warning before I say what I'm going to say. I'm going to mention sexually assaulted. So if y'all don't want to hear it, that's fine. Y'all could skip the video. Caught her alive before knocking her down and sexually assaulting her with the barrel of his gun. After the assault, Larry fled on foot, running half a mile. An early house. She woke the residents of the house and phone called the police. Meanwhile, Halsey had regained conscience and alerted a passing motor, who also called the police. Within the 30 minutes, Bonnie County Sheriff Bill Presley and 3 other officers arrived at the scene at the attack, but the assailant had already left. Larry was hospitalized overnight for a minor head wound. Holly was hospitalized for several days to recover from the skull fractures. Holly and Larry gave conflicted report of their attacker. Larry claimed that she could see under the mask that he was a light-skinned African American. Holly alternatively claimed it was 10 white men and around 30 years old, but conceded he would not disguise his features as he had been blind with the flashlight. Both agreed that the assailant was around 6 feet tall. Law enforcement repeatedly challenged Larry's account and believed that she and Holly knew the identity of their attacker and were covering up for him. March 21st, first double murder. Richard Lake Griffin, age 29, and his girlfriend 6 weeks, Polly Anna Moore, age 17, was found dead in Grifton car in the morning of Sunday, March 24, 1946, by a passing motorist. The murder saw the parked car on Lover Lanes, 100 south of USA Highway 67 West. The murderers first thought they were both asleep. Griffin was found between the front seats and his knees with his head resting in his crossed hands and his pockets turned inside out. Moore was found sprawled face down in the back seat. There is evidence, however, to suggest that she was placed there after being killed on a blanket outside the car. Griffin had been shot twice while in the car. Both had been shot once in the back of the head, and both were freely clothed. A blood-soaked patch of earth near the car suggested to police that they had been killed outside the car and placed back inside. Congealed blood was found covering the running board, and it had flowed through the bottom of the car door. A .32 Kurdish shell was found, possible shot from a pistol wrapped in a blanket. No extra reports indicate either Griffin or Moore was examined by pathologists. Conspiration local rumor had it that a sexual assault had also occurred, but murder reports refute these claims. Second double murder. At around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, April 14th, Paul Martin, age 17, picked up Betty Jo Barker, age 15, from a musical performance at the VFW Club at Western 4th and Oak Street. Martin's body was found around 6:30 a.m. in the morning, lying on his left side by the north edge of the North Park Road. Blood was found on the other side of the road by a fence. He had been shot 4 times. Though the noise thought that the wrist from behind in the right hand and thought the back of the neck. Brooke's body was found by a search party at about 11:30 a.m., almost 2 miles away from Martin's body, behind a tree. Her body was laying on his back, fully clothed, with the right hand in the pocket of the bottom overcoat. Brooks had been shot twice, once through the chest and once in the face. The weapon used was the same as in the first double murder, a .32 automatic Colt pistol. Martin's car was found about 3 miles away from Brooks' body and 1.55 miles away from his body. It was parked outside Spring Lake Park with the key still in it. The authorities were not sure who was shot first. Sheriff Peasley and Texas Ranger Captain Manuel Gonzalez said that examinations of the bodies indicate that they were both had put up a tragic struggle. Martin's friend Tom Abrasion said he did not believe an argument had happened between the victims, and Martin had not any enemies. May 3rd, 5th murder. On Friday, May 3rd, sometime before 9 p.m., Bildridge Sturck, age 37, and his wife Kathy, age 36, were in their home on a 500-acre farm of Highway 67 east, almost 10 miles northeast of Texarkane. He was sitting in an armchair reading the newspaper when he was shot twice in the back of the head from a closed double window. Hearing the sound of broken glass, Katie came from another room, saw Vigil stand up in the slump back into his chair when she realized he was dead. She ran to the wall-cracked telephone to call the police. She rang twice before being shot twice in the face from the same window. She fell but soon regained her footing and tried to get a pistol from another room, but was blinded by her own blood. She heard the killer at the back of the house and fled out in the front door. She ran barefoot across the street to her sister's and brother-in-law's house. Because no one was home, she ran to the neighbor A.V. Peter's house, gasped the villager's death, then collapsed. Peter shot a rifle in air to summon another neighbor, Elmore Taylor, who Peter sent to collect his car. Taylor played and along with the Peter family took Katie Sturck to Michael Mager Hospital, now Miller County Health Unit. Stakes with the question in the operation room by Miller County Sheriff E. Davis, who became head of the investigation 4 days later. Davis talked with Straker again, and she disconnected a circulation rumor that Verley had heard a car outside their home several nights in a row and feared being killed. So now we're going to talk about the investigation and what happened and how the investigation went along. Guys, I'm sorry, my voice, like when I read, my voice gets like really dry. Investigation of the attacks involved numerous law enforcement officers at the city, county, state, and federal levels. Number of investigators including William Harler Bill, the Bonnie County Sheriff, who was the first lawman on the scene of the first 3 attacks, Jackson Neal Jank Rumors, the Texarkane, Texas Chief of Police, who was among the first call to the scene of the two double murders. He died. He was in the investigation from 1997 to 1966. W.E. Davis, the Miller County Sheriff who had the investigation of the Stack murder. Max Andrew Tracker, 1912 to 1972, and a Kansas State Police detective who was first in the scene of the stake attack and the arresting officer of the lead suspect. Then you have Telling Brain Johnson, Manuel Teresa. So these are all the people that were like in the investigation. Law enforcement repeatedly challenged Larry's account of the first attack and believed that she had always knew the identity of their attacker and were covering for him. No suspects were apprehended. Larry returned to Texarkane after the Grave-Moore murders and hope of helping the Link case and define the killer. But the Texas Rangers questioned her story, and instead she knew who her attacker was. Officers did not publicly connect the Holly-Larry attacks of the Texarkane murders until May 11. The day after a Texarkane Gather interview with Larry was published, when Presley and Werner's called on the public to immediately report anyone who had unexplained absent in the nights of the fourth attacks. In response to the Grave-Moore murders, police launched a citywide investigation along with the Texas and Kansas City Police, Texas Department of Public Safety, the overseeing agency of the Texas Ranger, Miller and Case County Sheriff Department, and the Federal Bureau of FBI. Over 200 persons were questioned in the case, and about the same number of false leads were checked. 3 people found with body clothing were taken into custody. All 3 were clear and suspicious. In the Martin Book case, friends, acquaintances, and several suspects were questioned in the Bounty County building by officers who worked at 24-hour relays. Suspects were brought in from far away as 100 miles. Gouger tried beating the Panem by recruiting teenagers to sit as a decoys and park cars while officers waited nearly. Officers also volunteered as a decoy with the real partners of mannequins. Following the book Martin murders, some efforts hit the trees at Spring Lake Park. In the aftermath of May 3rd Starkard murder, officers from the entire area were called upon to help in the investigation. Blocks were affected on Highway 67 East. Those who had been driven in the area near the time of the slaying, along with several men found in the vicinity, were detained for question. By May 5th, 47 officers were working to solve the murder. On May 9th, a mobile radio station arrived with 20 Kansas State Police officers and a fleet of 10 patrol cars, equipped with 2-way radios to help contain the growing investigation. On May 11th, a telepath machine was installed and a Bounty County Sheriff officer to connect with other law enforcement officers in Texas. The unofficial theory for a motive amongst the majority of our officers was that of an ex-mania, as large amounts of money in the home were not taken, nor was Katie's stacked purse. By March 30, police has posted a 500 reward and effort to gain new information in the case, but the product over 100 false leads with no fruitful clues or suspect. Within days of the Brooke Martin murders, the reward fund had exceeded to 1,700. It rose to 7,000 and 25,000 in 9 of the Stark murder and passed in the following 10 days. This was some hesitation in links that Stark's murders to the other crimes because the weapon used was a .22 and Davis believed it was an automatic rifle. By November 1948, authorities no longer considered the Stark murder connected to the two double murders. The Grave-Moore murders raised public concern but were gently taken as an insulting incident, as officially did not publicly connect the earlier Holly case attack to the murders while the Phantom Killer was active. The Martin Brooke murders, those clearly alarmed the public to the likelihood of a serial predator. The deaths of these two church-going teenagers shocked the community, Brooke had been a popular high school junior, a sorority member, and an officer of his high school band, a winner of scholarly and musical prizes, and a former Little Miss Texarkane. Her high school ended class earlier so that hundreds of young people could attend the funerals. Curfews were set for businesses in an attempt to keep people off the streets at night. It was additional at this point that the opticized serial killer was dubbed the Panem Killer by local media. His stir grew on these days following the murder. Vigil stirred in his home. There was constant media coverage of the increased police activity, and the Texarkane gas state on May 5th that the killer may strike again at any moment, at any place, and at anyone. For a week, police were inundated with the reports of porters. One officer said that nearly all of the alarms were in the result of excitement, while investigation nearly hesitated. Previously, it had been normal for houses to be left unlocked. The murders alarm resident into the taking precautions with security, from locking doors to arming themselves with guns. Some people nail sheets over their window, some nail windows down, some use screen door brace as the window guards. The day after Shark's death, stores sold out of locks, guns, and ammunition, window shade, vent and blinds. Additional items of which sales increased, including window shade locks, screen doors, hooks, night lash, and other protective devices. Guard dogs were sold in local wanted ads. Because citizens were considerably nervous and armed with guns, Texarkane became a dangerous place. When calling on an address, law enforcement officer would turn on their siren and stand in their headlights and announce themselves to keep from being shot by a nervous homeowner. Gossip fully had history when he announced on May 7th that citizens should oil up their guns and see if they are loaded, and do not hesitate if they feel necessary to use them. The fear was significant enough to spread to other citizens, including Hope, Luckfin, Magnolia, and as far as Oklahoma City, where they were sell spikes for guns and axes. After 3 weeks without any assertion murder, Texarkane's fear began to lessen. The concern lasted throughout the summer, and suicides after 3 months had passed. So let's talk about rumors, because in every case, especially in a small town, there are always going to be rumors of who had committed the murder or who they think it is. The ramp spreading of rumors fed the panic and made the police investigation more difficult. On April 18th, Gonzalez had a press conference to display rumors that the murder had been caught. He stated that the rumors circulating among the public and the newspaper were condensed as the investigation harmful to innocent person. He stressed that again in a radio interview on May 7th. Rumors only take the officer from the main route of the investigation, so it's important that we capture this man, that we cannot afford to overlook and lead, no matter how fanatic it may seem. Rumors continued to spread through mid-May. Many people believed that the slayer had been caught. Some believed he had been secretly held at the Bounty County jail or fallen to another jail. The gas and news offices were drowned with phone calls, both local and long-distance inquiries about the operation of the killer. Presley declared that innocent people were being accused of being the Panem and asked residents to show more consideration for their fellow citizens. Although most of the town was in fear and panic, some youth continued parking on desperate roads, hoping to apprehend the perpetrator. Johnson and a Kansas state trooper were patrolling Event Road at night when they came up with the parked car. When Johnson approached the car and noticed a couple, he introduced himself and asked if they weren't scared. The girl replied, "It is a good thing you told me who you are," and she revealed that she had been pointing at a .25 AC pistol at him. On the night of May 10th, Texarkane City police officers were alerted to a car that had been following a bus. They chased it for 3 miles before shooting the tires and arresting C.J. Lander Jr., a high school athlete. When questioned at the station, he explained that he was unaware that there were policemen because they were driving unmarked car, and had been following the bus because he was suspicious of the passenger that had entered from a private car. On May 12th, gunshots gave him a warning to teen slur and gas, saying it is a good way to get killed. The undefined killer did not acquire a nickname until after the death of the Booker and Martin, and on the April 16th edition of the Texarkane Daily News, heading read, "Phantom Killer clerks officer as investigator of slaying press." This front page story was continued on page 2 within the headline, "Phantom Slayer." The Texarkane contains small title on April 17, which read, "Phantom Slayer still at large as a probe contains J.K." Mifree, execution editor of the Texarkane Gauls in 1946, said that the meaning editor Glavin Sodden had themes for the dramatic, which impelled him to ask if they could refer to the unknown murders as the Phantom. Murphy replied, "Why not? If the SOB continues to escalate capture, he certainly can be called the Phantom." Description: Jamie Hollis and Mary Lane Larry were the only victims to give the description of their attacker. They describe him as being 6 feet, wearing a white mask over his face with holes cut out for his eyes and mouth. Although Hollis believed he was a young, dark-tanned white man under 30s old, Larry believed he was a light-skinned African American, with no description from the other accident. It can be certain if the same perpetrator or perpetrators were responsible. Through is generally assumed that the crimes were the work of single individual. The modus operandi established for the killer was that he attacked young couples in empty or private areas just outside the city limits using a .32 caliber gun. Although a caliber used in the stake murder was a .22, a .32 was still believed by the majority of lawmen to have been used by the Phantom. He always attacked late at night on weekends, with cooling off periods of about 3 weeks between the attacks. Gonzalez stated that he and his officers were dealing with a Scrooge criminal who had left no stone unturned to conceal his identity and actives, and that the murder efforts were both clever and baffling. He also stated that the man were hunting was a cunning individual who would go to all lengths to avoid apprehension. At the Stark murder scene, Paisley said, "The killer is the luckiest person I have ever known. No one sees him, hears him in time, or can define him in any way." Officers have said that the killer is apparently a maniac who is an expert with guns. Victims and survivors, Holly said, "I know he's crazy. The crazy thing he said made me feel that his mind was rapid." Dr. Anthony Capella, a psychologist of the Federal Correctional Institution in Texarkane, believed at the time that the killer was planning to continue to make unexpected attacks, such as the villager struck on the outskirts of town. He also believed that this same person committed all 5 murders, and that the killer was somewhere between his mid-30s and 50, apparently motivated by a strong sex drive. In Salem, Lepel stated that the person who would commit such crimes were intelligent, clever, shrewd, and often not approachable. According to lab theories, the killer was not afraid of the police activity, but it was aware of the increased difficulty of attacking people on a vacant road, so he had shifted his target to farmhouse. He said that the killer could be leading a normal life, was unlikely a veteran, and was not initially a resident of the area despite his knowledge of it. He stated that the attack showed evidence of deep planning, that the killer works alone and tells no one of his crimes. He could either shift his crimes to a distant community or overcome the desire to assault and kill people. Lepel did not believe the killer was a black man because, in general, Negro criminals are not that clever. I don't know if that's, how do I take that? I don't know how to take it, but we'll talk about what I think, my theories. Throughout the investigation of the Phantom killer cases, almost 400 suspects were arrested. There were numerous false confessions investigated by police. TAC recalled 9 people who confessed to being the Phantom, but in their statement did not agree with the facts. In the Holly and Larry case, no suspects were apprehended. In the Griffin and Moore case, over 200 persons were questioned, and about the same number of false tips and leads were tracked. 3 suspects were taken into custody for bloody clothing, 2 of whom were released after Officer received testify explanation. Their main suspect was held in Vinton, Texas for a fourth investigation, but was later cleared of his suspect. So the first suspect that they have is Yoli Swimming. Yoli Swimming was a 19-year-old car thief in Confederate. He was arrested in July by Tackett, who was investigating car thefts after realizing that on the night of the Griffin murders, a car had been stolen in the area, and previously stolen car had been found abundant. Tack was able to locate the former car and arrested Swing wife Peggy when she came to retrieve it. Peggy confessed in great detail that Swing was the pattern killer and had killed Brooke and Martin. Her story changed in some details across several interviews, and police believe she was withholding information due to fear of Swing or of incriminating herself. Police were able to adequately verify some details of Peggy's confession, such as the location of the victim's possession, where she said Yoel had direct them. They were considered circumstantial evidence against Swing, but Peggy's confession was the most critical part of the case. However, Peggy recanting her confession was considered an unreliable witness and could not be compelled to testify against her husband. Law enforcement officer worked for 6 months trying to delay Peggy's confession and tie Swing to the murders. They found that the night of the Burke Martin murders, the Swing were sleeping in the car under a bridge near San Antonio. Swing was never charged with the murder and was instead tried in permission as a habitual offender for car theft. Presley reported in 2014 book that investigator in the Swing case later said that the sentence was affecting a plea bargain, though the case files indicate no formal agreement. Swing was apparently concerned about being sentenced to death for the murder, so he agreed not to contest the habitual offender charge and the fact tried to plead guilty despite the charge requiring a jury trial. Another of suspect, his name was H.B. Duty Tennisation. Henry Brooker Duty Tennisation was an 18-year-old university freshman who died by suicide on November 4th, 1948, leaving behind a protected instructions which dedicate investigators to suicide notes in which Tennisation confessed to the Brooke Martin and Stark's murder. He played trombone in the same high school band as Brooke, but they were not friends. Investigators weren't able to find any other evidence linking Tennisation to the murders. James Freeman, a friend of Tennisation, provided an alibi for the night of the stake murders, stating that they had been playing cards that evening when they heard the news of the attack. The next person is Ralph B. Bowman. Ralph B. Bowman, a 21-year-old ex-Army Air Force machine gunner, claimed to have woken from a footage state of several weeks on the day of the Stark murders with his rifle missing. He said that he heard about a suspect matching his description in hiking to Los Angeles. Feeling like he was running from the murder on May 23rd, he told Los Angeles Police that he thought he may be the I'm my own suspect, he said. Police arrested him, but Gonzalez stated that several parts of the man's story had little basis in fact. Berman said that he'd been discharged from the AAF for being psychotic, and he had a previously confessed to killing 3 people in Texarkane in a period of 3 days, which did not match the timeline of the killings. The other one is a saxophone Potter. Investigator had popped the Brooke saxophone which she had played in the night of her murder and which was missing, may lead them to the suspect on April 27. A suspicious man was arrested in Corpus Christi, Texas for trying to sell a saxophone to a music store. He asked about selling the instrument to the store, but became evicted and fled from the store manager. Although no saxophone was found on his possession, the police found a bag of bloody clothing in his hotel. After several days of questioning, the man was cleared as a suspect. Brooke's saxophone was located on October 24th, 6 months after her murder, in an underbrush near the place her body had been found. On May 8th, it was announced that the escape of German prisoner of war, who was already being hunted as a matter of routine, was considered a suspect. He was described as a stocky 24 years old weight 187 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. He had stolen a car in Montana, Arkansas, in an attempt to buy ammunition in several eastern Oklahoma towns. The police kept searching for the POW, but it was said that he had vanished into thin air. Unknown hitchhiker. On May 27th, a hitchhiker armed with a pistol carjacked and robbed a man, threatening to kill him and stating that he killed 5 people in Texarkane, naming Martin and Brooker. The hitchhiker went on to say that he was not fishing, killing people. Concerned said that the police were doubtful that this man was the Panam killer, noting that the killer had gone to lengths to conceal his identity while hitchhiking boost to living witness. On May 10th, Oklahoma, a man assaulted a woman in her home, threatening that he may as well kill her because he had already killed 3 of 4 people and he was going to rape her. He then fled. With a widespread search for the man, including 20 officers and 160 residents. 2 days later, police arrested a suspect but did not believe this. This man was the Phantom. According to the man's story, he could not have been in Texarkane at the time of the Strick murder. Sammy is a person given to a long-time Texarkane resident with a good reputation, who the police were located to name as the suspect. His vehicle tire tracks were found across the road from Martin's corpse. He failed a polygraph test, so the police decided to have him hypnotized by psychiatrist Travis Ulter. Ulter included that Sammy had no criminal tendency and that he had pulled his vehicle to the side of the road in order to urinate, and that he secretly visited a married woman with them who he was having an affair. Concealing this caused Sammy to fail the polygraph test. After police verified the details, they cleared Sammy as a suspect. A taxi driver became a major suspect in the Brooke Martin murders because his cab was seen in the vicinity of the crime scene in the morning, but was soon clear. Earl McScan on May 7th at approximately 6 a.m. The body of Earl Cliff McScan was found on Kansas City Southern Railway tracks 16 miles north of Texarkane near Orgene. The body, left arm and leg, had been severed by a freighting train a half hour earlier. The coroner jury dedicated state death had at the hands of a person unknown, and that he was dead before being placed in the railroad tracks. Because the murders unsolved, locals have speculated that the Mexican was the Panam 6 victim. Appointment rumors exist and claim that Mexican was the Phantom and had committed suicide by jumping in front of the train. So that is the story of the Texarkane murders. Guys, let me tell y'all, this story right here, I don't even know. I usually, when there's not some, like, I haven't found the person, there's some stories that I could tell who it is, but with this one, it's like they had so many different suspects, so many people coming with rumors. I feel like if they would have connected all the cases together, they would have solved it. But because they didn't connect the cases and it took them a while to connect it to the same person, I think that's what made it difficult for them to solve it. The only reason I'm saying that is because, remember, he didn't kill the first 2 victims. He didn't kill them. They lived. But the others, they died. Except the woman. One of the women did live. But I feel like they would have connected it, they would have probably solved it. And they would have, solved it sooner, or at least get them somewhere where they may solve it. My other thing with this one is, I think that it had to be someone from the area, just because of where he knew I felt like he knew the area. So my theory, it had to be somebody that knew the area, because there was just nobody that if you're not from a city or a small town, you're not gonna know how to hide a body unless you're from that area. I mean, that's the only theories that I do have. Like I said, this one is really one of those cases that I don't even know. What do you guys think? Do y'all think that we would ever find out who it is? I really do hope so. I hope that we do find out, especially now that like DNA is gotten way better. If they did collect DNA and they saved it the right way, I think we would hopefully one day figure out who did it. And I really hope we do figure it out, because I think these victims, they need answers and they need closure, and they need to know who did it and hopefully find out why. It could be somebody that is smart, or somebody that just enjoyed doing what he did. And I mean, you never know. But I just do hope that we can figure out one day, and like I said, hope these families get some closures. Even the victim that did survive, I think they should have some type of closure. Because you never know. Like, I wouldn't even want to move on with my life knowing that the killer is somewhere in the area. But guys, I'm so sorry about this video being a little bit long, but I just wanted it to bring the story, and I will see y'all on Friday.